probably, I mean, it's probably over a period of experiences, I think. You know, from playing games quite young, going around to friends' houses and playing games together, sharing the pad backwards and forwards. That I remember sticking in my head quite a lot, which was, you know, there wasn't an opportunity for you to play a game together. And I think it was like Mario 3, I think it was, which was the one that sticks in my head. I go around to a friend's house and pretty much every night, and we'd play a bit. When you died, you'd pass over the pad and you'd kind of go backwards and forwards, and then I'd go home. And then when I would, the next one I guess is, that kind of formed a little bit of my kind of, in my head of actually, we are together, we are sort of conquering this thing together. Which has no meaning whatsoever. Like we're trying to win a game, which has no currency other than you can say you've done it. And then kind of going into the cinema, which I do remember sort of vividly. And I remember going in, it was the first film I ever watched, Jungle Book, with my granddad. And we went into the lounge cinema, which I don't think exists anymore, in Headingley. And I remember going in there and it being really dark. Screen was on in front of me, we sat upstairs, and I remember walking to sort of the front of that and sitting there. It was a light bulb moment. And I remember sitting there and watching it and seeing other people watching it, because I was watching the film as much as I was probably watching the other people at that point, because I don't think, because again, I'd never been to the cinema before, and this beautiful old kind of building, and everyone sitting there kind of like in sort of not acting out, but kind of like, you can see visibly kind of what they were thinking of the film as they were doing it. And I remember that just it completely got me. I remember that, and I remember desperately wanting to go back again. And then the next one was kind of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which is not the best Indiana Jones movie, but I remember seeing that. Pretty sure that's how I got my fear of spiders from that film. But I remember going to see that, and there was another film on at the same time, which was BMX Bandits, and I remember wanting to see that film because my cousin had seen it and he was cool. And I remember wanting to do that, and it was almost like a social thing of, if I've seen that, it will make me cooler as a kid. But then having to go see Indiana Jones because my granddad didn't want to see that, so he took us to see that as well. And again, it's that thing of that participation with the audience. It wasn't necessarily about seeing the film, it was about the fact that you were kind of in there from a sort of cultural standpoint. I don't think, going back to it, looking back, it's like BMX Bandits is probably not the same as Indiana Jones. But in your head at that point in time, it was super important that I would have seen that, because BMXs were massive. But I remember that vividly, having that moment of going back. And again, I still get it whenever I go back to the cinema. I still get kind of like that excitement whenever I go and see a film. And I think that is because I know it's a safe place to kind of enjoy the experience. And it's a way of switching off, but it's also a way of kind of like basically participating in someone else's kind of dream or vision of sort of creativity, which I think is really, really, really important.